Hello everyone. In the previous lecture, we talked about culture and nation. Culture, as viewed by Stuart Hall, is a dynamic, contested space where power and ideology shape meaning and identity. Popular culture, which includes media, entertainment, and trends, play a crucial role in shaping national identity, especially in colonial contexts where it was used to unify people under a common national culture. In India, the nationalist movements utilized popular culture to foster collective identity, making it a tool for both constructing and contesting cultural narratives. We have seen how Durga Puja serves as an example of how tradition and modernity intersect in popular culture. The festival has transformed into a competitive cultural spectacle blending religion, creativity, and commercialism. The festival's visual role of popular culture in shaping and reflecting local traditions as well as global influences is an increasing phenomenon. Popular culture, therefore, is not just a reflection of the societal values, but a driving force in creating and expressing national identity. In this lecture, we will look at the making of popular culture through images and publishing houses. This lecture will be divided into two parts. Today, we will talk about the first part of representation. Now, in the previous lecture, we have seen how culture is defined. Images and representations have heavily impacted us. So, what we see and observe also get codified within our brain as a cultural norm. Let us analyze some films and images to see how they contribute to creating a popular imagination. In the previous lectures of previous weeks, you have learned about the complexities of women's identity, Bhadra Mahila, Bharat Mata, and so on. If you have any questions, you can go back to those lectures. Today, we will revisit the notion of Bharat Mata or Mother India in a way that is made through representation. The imageries that appealed the time of colonial period were often about patriotism. It was also about valor and sacrifice. Let us take the example of Bharat Mata. Bharat Mata or Mother India first appeared as a symbolic figure in the late 1800s during a time of growing nationalist sentiment. By the 1930s, her image had become widespread and instantly recognizable. Artists and political thinkers across the country helped shape a standard visual form, usually a serene woman dressed in sari, often holding the national flag or standing over a map of India. This image became a powerful symbol of the nation. However, we have to remember that just because Bharat Mata's look became common, it does not mean that it was without contradictions. Her image carries the traces of many political, religious, and cultural struggles that helped define Indian identity during the colonial and early post-colonial periods. While she came to represent the nation's unity, strength, and sacrifice, the way she represented was not always neutral or universally accepted. As feminist scholar Joan Landis writes, symbolic representations are counters in symbolic actions and are risked when deployed. In other words, symbols like Bharat Mata are not just passive images, they are tools used in political and cultural debates. They can inspire people, but they can also be contested, reinterpreted, or even rejected. When artists or leaders used Bharat Mata to represent India, they were also taking a risk. The image could be powerful, but it could also exclude those who didn't identify with it, especially religious minorities or people who questioned linking the nation with a mother goddess figure. A key feature in Bharat Mata's iconography is the way she is often shown with the map of India. In some depictions, the shape of the country is part of her body. In others, she stands in front or within the map. This visual merging of the female figure with the national territory created a strong emotional link between the mother and the idea of the nation. The land was not just geography, it became sacred like a mother, deserving devotion and even sacrifice. This emotional connection helped foster a sense of unity and belonging, especially during the freedom struggle. At the same time, this merging of map and goddess raises important questions. Who gets to define the nation? What is included in this vision of the Bharat Mata? What happens to alternative representations of India that do not fit this model? Now, numerous paintings, books in regional languages, newspapers, and so on adopted this dominant image of the Bharat Mata as a territorial figure saving the nation while fulfilling a mother's duties to her sons. Sumati Ramaswamy notes that this was not surprising because given the general popularity of all manners of female divinities across India, from which she obviously benefited. Her association, however, with scientific cartographies such as maps and terrestrial globes is innovative indeed. As historians of cartography insist, mapped knowledge is hard-won knowledge, a product of sustained cultural, ideological, and pedagogic work. The superimposition of the Bharat Mata onto the geographical map makes the nation into a living divine mother, not just a geographical space. As Ramaswamy adds, the scientific form of the country in the form of a map is indispensable, for after all, it gives concrete shape to India following the precise protocols of mathematical cartography. It provides the basis for rule and governance, and it demarcates what belongs within its borders and what does not. In other words, it gives tangible form to a nation yearning for form. But nonetheless, from the start of nationalist mobilization, doubts surfaced about this novel device that magically gave form to the ephemeral abstraction that is the nation. At this point, we may ask, there are already enough number of goddesses. Why invent a new one? And how is it different from the others? Ramaswamy mentions that all the images of Mother India were set within a map to set her apart from other female divinities in order to assure her status as a special deity of national territory, and so that she is indeed regarded as an adequate and appropriate representation, embodiment, and symbol of a legitimate and authentic modern nation. This blending of sacred imagery and cartography gave form to the abstract idea of the nation. But it also raised questions about inclusion, representation, and legitimacy. The nation found its representation in films such as Mother India. Released in 1957, a decade after independence, the film depicts a poor mother's plight who rises above the limits of motherhood and becomes the mother of a nation, who is ready to sacrifice the son she gave birth to in order to save the honor and values of nation and the sons of nation. The film links poverty, oppression by the landlord, catastrophic impact of industrialization, breaking of agrarian society, and so on. In this plight, it is the mother who stands strong in her values despite everything. We have to remember, a mother is also a desexualized figure. That is why it is easier to imagine the mother as an icon of patriotism. In this context, sacrifice is made of utmost importance in the film. In Mother India, the character becomes the mother of the nation, an icon. Now, when it comes to popular imagination, films have also used images of ravaging Kali and Durga extensively, and this is when the notions of nation and its citizens were facing a change. Let us take a look at Rajeshwari Sundararajan's reading of the film Khoon Bhari Maang. It was released in the 80s. In this film, the main character Aarti is a simple and wealthy widow. She becomes an unsuspecting victim of a plot to take her wealth, family, and life. Her father is murdered by a worker whose nephew, another character Sanjay, pretends to fall in love with Aarti. He marries her and then tries to kill her by throwing her into a lake filled with crocodiles. And this he does with the help of his lover and Aarti's best friend. Aarti survives, though badly injured, and undergoes plastic surgery to give her a completely new beautiful face. With her new identity, she begins to plan her revenge and gains it. Sundararajan writes, "The woman's killing of her husband is a form of justice, even a form of divine retribution." In one scene in the film, the icon of Kali and Durga, the avenging goddess, is explicitly displayed. And in the last fight scene, Rekha, the main character, with her hair loose, wearing men's clothing, carrying weapons, and riding a horse, is evoked as the visual analogy of the goddess. The motive of revenge in Khoon Bhari Maang derives most immediately from the genre of the vigilante film, a recent phenomenon in Indian cinema that reflects a growing popularity that forces of justice and order having broken down in a basically lawless society. Only the righteous, who is invariably single and male, but sometimes be a gang, sometimes even be female, can punish the guilty. We are reminded of Phulan Devi in this context. A formula film therefore becomes popular because it follows familiar rules. As a type of fantasy, it works by showing something unreal, but in a way that is still familiar. It creates a world that isn't real, yet people can recognize parts of it, even if it does not reflect any actual reality. Popular films avoid showing ideas that are too rebellious or morally controversial. Their narratives are carefully controlled to stay within the accepted societal boundaries. In this context, then, we can ask, how does a film depict the killing of a wife by a wife of her own husband? Now, even when they present something bold, like a wife killing her husband, they soften its impact through specific narrative choices. For instance, the husband is not her original partner, but a second illegitimate one who has replaced the true husband. Their marriage is not consummated, which preserves her loyalty to her first husband and makes the second marriage seem invalid. Additionally, by the time she commits the act, she has undergone a complete transformation. Her identity and appearance have changed. So it no longer feels like a true case of a wife killing a husband. In this way, the film makes a seemingly transgressive act safe and acceptable, ultimately reinforcing rather than challenging social norms. Now let us summarize today's lecture. Today we saw how popular culture is shaped through media, images, particularly focusing on visual representations and films. Divided into two parts, the lecture first emphasized how images influence cultural norms by embedding certain ideas into our imagination. A key example is Bharat Mata, a symbol of the Indian nation that gained popularity from the late 1800s to the 1930s. Although she came to represent national unity and sacrifice, her image also carried contradictions and was not universally accepted. Feminist scholars like Joan Landis remind us that symbolic figures like Bharat Mata are not neutral. They are used in political and cultural struggles and can both inspire and exclude. Bharat Mata's image often merges with the map of India, turning the nation into a sacred figure deserving of devotion. Historian Sumati Ramaswamy notes that while India already had many goddesses, Bharat Mata's distinct link to geography and maps made her unique, symbolizing a modern nation. This blending of divinity with cartographic precision gave a visual shape to the otherwise abstract concept of the nation. But it also raised questions about inclusion and legitimacy. We then looked at the film, particularly the 1957 classic Mother India, where the protagonist rises from personal suffering to become a national icon through sacrifice. This reinforces the idea of mother as a moral center of the nation. Similarly, in Khoon Bhari Maang, the female lead seeks justice after betrayal, echoing divine retribution. Here, the image of the goddess Durga or Kali is used to frame her revenge as morally justified. Finally, the lecture explains how popular films rely on formulaic structures. They present familiar yet unrealistic fantasies, carefully avoiding any real social rebellion. Even radical actions like wife killing her husband are made acceptable through plot devices that neutralize their impact. These narratives, while appearing bold, ultimately reinforce traditional values rather than challenging them. In the next lecture, we will look at text and the politics of publishing. Thank you.